Hello, friends. Welcome back. So, today we have an interesting talk.
Yeah.
We're going to have to sometimes be vague so that we can keep our channel alive. Um, but we're going to talk about society, institutions, what sometimes people call maybe antisocial or criminal thinking, or what they might call conspiracy theories. That all of those are just words and terms and really attacks on the person's morality for thinking differently or for not adhering or agreeing with the rules and regulations of the people who set those rules and regulations.
Yeah. It starts when you start thinking for yourself, when you're told something and you're like, wait a minute, I paid attention in science. That doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. It's with a lot of different things. And so, one of the biggest things that we want people to get out of this is that societal norms might be madness of the mob. Things that are being programmed into society for everybody to believe in order to sway it in a certain direction.
Mm-hmm.
There's this percentage, I think it's like 15%, when a concept or a belief or a company or whatever hits 15% of the population, that's when the swing happens for the growth, right? So that's even, like I said, concepts and ideals. 15% of the population it has to reach in
And
order for the,
then it means that the rest, the sheep will follow, right? Like
yeah,
it only takes 15% and then the rest will just follow along.
yeah.
Hmm.
The reason why we're bringing this up is that a lot of times when we start being conscious of our thoughts, right? And we start questioning the programming that we have that have made us into who we are today because we don't want to be that anymore, or we're trying to hit a different goal, and the way that we've been behaving and the patterns of thinking and everything that we have been doing up to this point is what has been boxing us into this identity and this life is in question.
Hmm.
Sometimes some of those things that have created us were put there. I mean, shoot, sometimes 99% of the time the programming came from society and the government and the TVs and TikTok and Facebook and whatever it is, school, churches, whatever. It all came from outside of us. And we're creating this course on identity transformation that we're going to have. It's a beautiful course, and it breaks all this down.
And some of that's the very simplistic understanding of it. We could get even higher level with it, but that's for later because we really do have to encourage new information slowly to the psyche. Otherwise, y'all are just going to turn us off because you're going to be like, who are these wackos?
Yeah.
But it's important that you're listening to these inner guides. You're listening to your inner voice when it says, I don't know if this thing is quite right. This doesn't quite sit right with my morality, right? And it's important that you develop your own morality, because you're less likely then to be swayed by the madness of the mob.
Mm-hmm.
One of the pivotal points in my maturing is when I was in college. It was just undergrad. I was maybe 19, and I took a class like social justice, social issues, or something. And I have this book still. Let me grab it. So I can't quite part with it even. It's called Human Rights in Our Own Backyard: Injustice and Resistance in the United States. And so what I realized with this book, because in America we're kind of taught with the news and with the way our school system indoctrinates kids, is to think that all of the injustices happen in other countries,
Mm.
right?
And
That all these
propaganda happens
horrible,
in other countries. Yeah.
well, the propaganda is happening here, right? That's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. It's
It's
all propaganda.
that's the programming that we receive, is that everything terrible happens everywhere else. Starving kids are elsewhere, but we have starving kids in America. we have injustices like Katrina and racial injustices and genocides happening in America. And this goes through that. So if you would like to really get some more information, some tangible research and verified information, that helps our psyche be like, oh, wait, if this is true, then this thing that I thought that America is so great and that America is the be all end all of all the countries in the world, you can see how then you can start chipping away at those beliefs and that box that you've been put in, right? And so that box is what you're trying to chip out of. And it takes courage to do that.
And here's the thing. Why is it important to realize if something isn't as good as you think it is? You know what I mean? Because some people are going to be, oh, you're anti-American. No, motherfucker. I love my country. And if I'm not going to look at the things that need to be adjusted in my country, what kind of patriot am I? What kind of American citizen am I to turn a blind eye to some bullshit that's going on because other people are saying that I'm not a patriot or I'm not being American? That's bullshit. That's like the uncle that's molesting your brother, but because he's part of the family, everybody shuts the fuck up. That's what that is. We're being molested in America by the older trusted person, and everybody's going to shut up about it and turn their head because they're afraid of marring the family name. No. This is real stuff. And we and as responsible people, the more conscious I became, I realized how much I was sucked into all this dumbass shit. Man, this you really this is really some shit. Yeah, that I was so sucked into MTV, the Hip Hop Awards, BET, selling dope, watching these movies, putting rims on the car, tinting my windows, that I wasn't paying attention to how much these people were being abused. And I was part of the abuse too. But because, don't pay attention to, don't look at what this hand is doing over here, just watch this hand. I was participating in it. And that's what happens when you turn a blind eye. You are willfully participating in something because you're not willing to look at it or do anything about it. Yeah.
And it's important that we take on that responsibility and be like, oh, why does this, how did I get in this situation?
Yeah.
Like if you're in a situation and you feel a victim to it, don't allow that to pull the wool over your eyes. Because we can always say, oh, well, it happened because of this and this and this and this. It happened because, the cards are stacked against me and this. But in reality, this freedom that we're talking about is a personal reclamation of your power. And in every situation, we can say, oh, I got myself into this because I believed this and this and this.
100%.
Right? So we have to acknowledge how we're participating in it.
100%. And here's the part so when you're able to do that, you don't have to pick up a banner. You don't have to go marching through the streets anymore. That's not how it happens anymore. What you do now is you create a community where you you empower people to make different decisions in their life, and you live your life to be that example, because really people learn by example. And you be that example of the world that you want to see. And then you provide people with the information and knowledge and empower them to do it themselves. You can't make nobody do nothing. All you can do is provide them and show them through the way that you live your life, by being your own guru, that it is possible. And then from there, that's how the world change. It's each one reach one, each one teach one. You don't have to go battle things in order to make it happen, but you have to recognize the truth in what's going on, right?
And it really is, as cliche as it sounds, like operating the matrix. Like when Neo leaves the matrix and comes back into it, you need to know that you're engaging with the matrix and how to do that. It really is a game to them, and we have to learn how to play that game too.
Yeah.
And then once we gather our own resources, then we have our own power to operate outside of the system. And that's the ultimate goal of this modern mystic. It's
Yeah.
the ultimate goal of conscious communities and independence. It's of freedom. And we cannot fall into the moral policing that's happening. I think that
Mm-mm.
there's something, and I'm sorry to say, well, it happens on both sides, but sometimes can happen in the very educated communities or very
I feel like a lot.
liberal communities. I used to identify as a super hyper liberal. I called myself a bleeding heart liberal at one point in my life, in my
And she was
early
bleeding for
20s.
real because of that.
And I was like, oh, I feel so bad for, and I was like, oh, but this, and then this injustice, and this, and this. But when you really dig into those companies or those people, they're not actually doing the work that they say they're doing in the community, or one side, one wing of the eagle, and then the other, if you know what I mean. They're still start part of the same bird. And so
Mm-hmm.
again, we have to see through the illusion. So whenever we see things happening in the news or whatever, sometimes there's ulterior stuff happening with that. It's not for
Mm-hmm.
your information and your good that you're listening to this. It's
Mm-hmm.
for the stock markets and the manipulation of the society and whatever might trend on TikTok and make this other thing go off right in the
Yeah.
market. So without saying too much, my purpose of starting this rant right now is that you don't fall into the mob mentality, which is,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you're a piece of POS because you didn't get the thing that everyone got in the last 2 months. Is that what it requires? Is that what it requires to be a part of a
Society. Yeah.
society? To are we tagging people now?
We
Are
got the
we?
scarlet letter is back now because
Yeah.
is that what it is? We're gonna start
Yeah.
witch hunting and burning people at the stake now because their
Mhm.
beliefs are different.
Or
You know.
because they choose a different birth for their babies, like outside of the system. There's always reasons why, and if you don't agree with it, fine, then don't agree with it. But don't
Impose.
impose your will
Yeah.
on someone else because it's not your place and that will come back to you. It's called karma.
Mhm.
And we cannot be policing each other. We're here to nurture each other and to
Mhm.
support each other. That has nothing to do with saying, hey, I don't think you should, do X, Y, and Z because you don't care about our community and you're morally bankrupt now if you don't do this thing and participate. That's
Yeah.
bullying.
Yeah.
It's straight out bullying.
In the end, because we are this modern mystic and we talk about the science of spirituality, and so there's a psychological construct that comes from, right? And then if you think about the science of it, it's an energy, right? It's an energetic flow. And if when you start being conscious of what that really is, the conflicts that's created, the energetic flow that's created, and therefore when people are moved in a direction because they believe on, or they decided to put themselves under a certain label that society has created, everything under that label is fed this energy and it moves through our society like a tycoon. It's all an energy exchange. And once you start realizing that, then you'll start paying attention to what you put your energy to. And this isn't this 100% is for each individual to understand however they can. And we're offering this knowledge and we're offering these skills because we want you to be your own guru and take it in yourself. We're not telling you that you need to think one way or the other. We're just giving you scientific fact, psychological findings, and spiritual ancient teachings that have been able to explain, categorize, and move this world. And when you know how it happens, then you, as above, so below, if you can change it within you, it changes your outer world. That's just the way it is. And however you want to do that, maybe you want to still, maybe you want to be, I don't know, maybe you want to be the best warrior in the world. That's on you. Do that. You know what I mean? Maybe you decide to slip on the dark side of things. That's on you. We're not trying to tell you what to do or what not to do. But what we are doing is explaining on a deeper level how the world works. And that mob mentality, they call it the mob for a reason. And just because they call it society doesn't change the fact that it's a mob mentality movement.
Hmm.
Yeah.
A good example of this is like I don't know. So Holland, they don't have like their security max prison is like less than even our jails here. And they have knives in their room, and they have individual rooms, and they're not locked, and they can eventually, I think they can even like go, they're part of the neighborhood. They get jobs in the neighborhood. They help because it proves that everything is about involvement and community and connection. We'll leave you with this introduction to other spirituality from around the world. A lot of African cultures, such as from what's taught from Sabanto Sumi, she talks about the grief in that if you're not grieving, if you're not being acknowledged and you're kind of getting stuck in it, it's not a shameful thing, that the elders would come to you and help you with that. Or there's the proverb that says, the child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth.
Ooh.
We're not speaking about things that are truly detrimental to social society and people and to the person. We're speaking about reclaiming actually what is true spirituality and what is truth for a person and true autonomy and true independence and self-knowing and free will. That's the true essence of everyone. We're all allowed that.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the right to feel that in ourselves, and that can be accomplished in a social setting that's fruitful and helpful for everyone, and it's actually more conducive than what we're living in now. And if you are someone who is very well adapted into the knowledge of how capitalism is kind of ingrained in us and how it's kind of changed our belief and our view of the world, I would love to hear that, because I think that would be a great topic for us to talk to more people about. It's something I want to learn more about, is like how has it infiltrated our psyches? Because I think a lot of us are feeling very disconnected in our relationships, and like you said before about money, like we feel like we have to exchange time for money. We have to sacrifice our relationships for this money. And it's really backwards to a lot of the teachings that we acknowledge.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, because of where we came from and people are from systems of control, free thinking, there's no room for free thinking. And they try to demonize it and say, oh, well, if everybody thought on their own merits, how would we ever be able to flow as a society? When in actuality, nature flows just fine without the aid of rules and regulations by humans. It flows just fine. They did a study on intersections, and that when they had somebody there to direct the traffic, it actually less cars would go through than if there was a stop sign, right? And when they put a turnabout in there, when people decided on their own when to go without a stop sign telling them, traffic even flowed even more, because on an individualistic basis, we are capable of making decisions on our own to help the flow of society. We don't need to have a whole bunch of rules and regulations like people say.
We do need a healthy upbringing and community that's healthy. There is a difference. Like, I'm not going to just listen to any elder, because there's some people who are old but not wise, right? Like
they're indoctrinated.
Yeah. And so it's really important that we continue these initiations and become wise with the information that we have and have good hearts, because otherwise, yeah, people can be harmful then. People act out in harmful ways. But what type of society do we see that coming from? A hurt one.
Yeah. What it's built on.
So when people are able to operate in their own free will and their own self-sovereignty, they do make the right decisions and have good morality.
And don't let nobody tell you different. You have the ability to do that within yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good stuff, man.